Hello, I am back. Welcome to my corner of MMA. In this video, we're going to be going through some of the biggest reasons to get hyped for UFC 296. So when you're there, chilling with the boys, watching it on the weekend, you know exactly what moments to look out for, what emotional waves the entire MMA world is going to be riding as we go through this together. And we will see by the end of this weekend whether or not these things come true. Let's get right into it. Now, the number one thing that I'm so hyped about this weekend is the return of Tony Ferguson. Now, I know that I have been pretty skeptical about Tony Ferguson on this channel. I've called him washed, old, mentally insane. I've made several videos saying why Tony should retire, so pretty odd that one of the most hyped things going into this weekend is indeed the return of Tony Ferguson. I have done so much trash talking about Tony, but it has always come from a place of love. And even though I am worried about his training with David Goggins, like God knows how much damage Goggins has done to Tony Ferguson, but it doesn't mean that I'm still not hyped to see Tony come back. Because, and I talked about this in my Why UFC 296 Sucks video, I talked about this very thing. Tony Ferguson actually has a chance to piece up Paddy Pimblett, yeah? Like, in the first round is when Tony has his best moments of his current phenomenal losing streak. And it is in the first round that Paddy Pimblett has his worst moments. Paddy Pimblett is always there to get hit. It is a winnable matchup for Tony Ferguson in that opening round of the fight. And if Tony Ferguson does put Paddy Pimblett flat on his ass, then I think the entire MMA world is going to cry with happiness. And that is the moment that I hope that Tony Ferguson retires with a win under his belt. And Paddy Pimblett will have to live with the fact that he lost to a completely washed, over the hill, can't even do his knee slide anymore, Tony Ferguson. That is the biggest reason to get hyped going into UFC 296, at least for me, but there are plenty more. The second reason to get hyped for this weekend, and let's just put on the clown makeup here, okay, and ask ourselves why so serious, is if Colby Covington actually wins. It is going to cause Joker levels of anarchy. Now, I know what you're thinking. Doug, you handsome Australian bastard. Didn't you make an entire video saying that you really don't want Colby Covington to win? Haven't you been talking about how Colby Covington doesn't deserve a title shot 4 weeks now? Yeah, I did. But, if he does win, the MMA world is going to be thrown into pure chaos. Now, pardon the pun there, but he's already calling out anybody other than Belal Muhammad. Yeah, I mean, he'll fight up a weight class against Sean Strickland. He'll invite Dustin Poirier up from down a weight class to fight Dustin Poirier. He will call out Ian Garry if Ian Garry wins. He will do anything to avoid that tough fight against Belal Muhammad. The fighter who, in my opinion, is just a better fighter than Colby Covington. Colby is going to do everything that he can to avoid that fight. And quite frankly, for the online yappers like myself that make content, look how much content we've all been able to make because John Jones has a legitimate and significant injury and we're calling for him to be stripped. Now imagine how much content we'll all be able to make, right? If Colby Covington actually wins and then just holds up the belt for 6 months, doesn't book a fight, and talks about fighting anybody else other than Belal. I mean, it's going to be great. It's going to be great if he does win, just for the mayhem of it all. Like, if you love watching the drama of this sport play out, which is half the reason that we're here, it's not just the, the punches and the kicks, as Uncle Chael likes to say. It's watching all this madness play out. Then that's the reason that you'll be getting amped up if Colby Covington wins, because it is certainly going to make the landscape of MMA like bloody interesting for at least 12 months, because he is not fighting any of the contenders. He ain't fighting Belal Muhammad, that's for sure. Okay, number 3, and maybe this is the most hyped thing to get around for UFC 296. As as someone who has watched Tony Ferguson so much, that might be the most hyped, but this one is right up there as well. This could be, and I think for some people, this will be the most hyped thing. It's that Ian Garry has a real chance at being completely embarrassed at the press conference and then knocked out by Vicente Luque. Like, Ian Garry has proved himself to be one of the biggest hypocrites in the game today. He's quite happy to dish it out to Neil Magny, but when someone points the finger back at him, starts talking about his family and the way he acts with his family, he curls up and blocks everyone on Twitter. He says things like he's worried about his family's safety. No one has said they're going to attack his family, by the way, even though he's the one that has actually hurt the outcome of another fighter with his family. He wants to claim defamation, but like, no one cares, Ian Garry. Like, you've just copped some trash online. Whereas Neil Magny actually has what you've said about him brought up in court, apparently, which is horrible. That is actual defamation. And you've gone around, Ian Garry, openly saying about how you don't care what people think about you, but then you go ahead and block everyone's comments on Twitter. Like, you are a horrible hypocrite. You cannot go into a gym without getting kicked out of it. You cannot do an interview without people turning on you. You might be the most disliked fighter of 2023, which is crazy because Israel Adesanya fought in 2023. Now, Ian Garry, he's good, but he's not a perfect striker. He does get hit. He fights like he has a longer range than he actually has. And Vicente Luque is a tough monster. He could easily piece up Ian Garry. Ian Garry could get slept this weekend. And if it does happen, after everything that we have been through in a community for the last, since UFC Boston, right? Whatever number that was, I can't remember off the top of my head, but since UFC Boston, I mean, if we can all just breathe a sign of relief to watch this kid just get his just deserves, oh man, it's going to be fun. Now that is going to be something that we're all going to be celebrating. Now this last one, it's a bit of a free one. It's a bit bittersweet, but it is something like positive to focus on here. And it's that we're gonna get to see Wonderboy do his thing for like, what might be the last, second, third last time. We're approaching the station here of Wonderboy's career, and we get to see him do his thing one more time. And we should just, whatever happens with the Wonderboy Shavkat Rakhmonov fight, we should just enjoy it while it's there. And we've heard in interviews that Shavkat is going to be standing with Wonderboy. He is going to be playing that striking game with Wonderboy. So we just get to enjoy watching Wonderboy do his bouncy, fluid karate stance movement for as long as it lasts until Shavkat decides how he wants to end the fight. I just don't see a way that Wonderboy is going to be getting that win. So enjoy him while he is here, you know? That's the best that we can take from that situation. But that is it. They are the things that I am looking forward to the most. Plus, we have an entire title fight that no one is even talking about, which is crazy. That is going to be an absolute war. UFC 296, there are so many reasons to get hyped around this card. I cannot wait for this weekend. Let me know down in the comments, what is the thing that you are going to be most excited about going into UFC 296? What is the outcome that you want to see the most? Not the biggest bets that you're placing, but out of all the storylines going into UFC 296, what is the outcome that you want to see the most? Let me know that down in the comments. If you've been enjoying these videos, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button down there, and I'll see you all in the next one.